Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome inside Garage Door Sports, your no-holds-barred weekly discussion on everything in the sporting world. For all your news on hockey, baseball, basketball, football, soccer, and more, you've come to the right place. And now it's time for your hosts, Nick McVicker, Kyle Vardy, and Irfan Manji. Welcome inside the Garage Door Sports Studios. We got a very special segment going today. Nick McVicker joined over the Garage Door Sports Cup phone by Irfan Manji and Kyle Vardy. Irfan, how you doing, buddy?
Doing great, man. How are you?
I'm good. Kyle, how about you?
Trying to keep sane in this crazy, crazy world right now.
Crazy world. And you know what? It is a crazy world, but we're going to have a little bit of fun today. And we got a very, very special guest joining us. The GM of Nick's Quarantine Dynasty is in studio, GM McVicker. How you doing today, sir?
I'm good, guys. Yeah, thank you for having me on. I really do appreciate it.
Well, we're glad to have you on the show. So we're gonna ask you a bunch of questions. We're gonna have some fun with this. Please be open, please be honest, and we'll go from there. So I'm gonna ask the first one. Sorry, boys, I'm gonna cut you off. I'm gonna go first. GM McVicker, second year in a row that you're in the Stanley Cup Finals. You've managed to bring this team from barely making the playoffs in year one to first in the Western Conference. How does that feel heading into your second round?
I mean, the feeling is really good around the locker room and just around the organization in general. I think we've been very lucky that every player that we've brought in has contributed at the highest possible level. We get scoring from line 1 all the way through line 4. Even our defense contributes on the offensive end, and then when we play on the defensive end, we all come back, we all play together, and it's a really solid atmosphere to be around. Personally, the fact that all the moves that we've made have worked out well is such a great feeling, and
it's got to be a good feeling.
excited.
I really do appreciate you coming on even just to tell us that. Kyle, I know you had a good question. You want to go with that?
Yeah, I kind of wanted to ask, what kind of expectations do you have for this series coming up? With the Leafs not being in the Stanley Cup since '67, all the pressure's on them. So what are your expectations for this series?
Yeah, I mean, actually, I grew up in the Toronto area, so for me, it's insane to be playing against my hometown team. But the expectations are like that of any Stanley Cup final. I think you got two teams that have fought all season to get through, and there's no easy games when it comes to playoff time. So we're gonna hope that every one of our players comes out and plays to the best of their ability. But we know that if we get our production lines 1 through 4, like I just said, we should be able to handle anyone in the league. And I think we have the confidence that we are going to be able to beat these Leafs, even though they do have that intense pressure on their backs.
Irfan, you had something that you wanted to say on this, right?
Yeah, I guess I just wanted to follow up on Kyle. Do you consider yourself the underdog, or is this an even matchup for you? Like, who has the upper hand going into the Stanley Cup playoffs?
That's a great question, Irfan. I'm not sure if anyone has an upper hand when it comes to going into the finals. As I said, I think anyone who makes it to this far is obviously a very, very good team. So we got to expect that they're going to come out guns blazing, and obviously they struggled through parts of the season, but they really turned it on at the end, and we think that they're coming in riding a hot streak. They swept the Eastern Conference Final, and that whenever a team does that, it's tough to do. But we think if we can get all the production that we have been and everyone playing at the highest level, we'll be able to handle this Leaf team and continue their streak of not having any wins a little bit longer. I mean, obviously, again, I grew up in the Toronto area, so I know how much that fan base is starving and how much that fan base is going to push their team. So it should be interesting when we're playing those games on the road in 3 and 4. But we think that no matter where we play, no matter what obstacle is put in our way, we have the horses that are going to be able to get us to the end, and the end goal is to raise that cup again.
And heading into this playoffs, you've been really lucky with some injuries. I know, Irfan, you wanted to ask about Burakovsky and his outlook for this finals, right?
Yeah, Coach. GM McVicker. Do you expect Burakovsky to be back at any point in time? I know you said timeline was June 15th, but is there some sort of early update you can give us for his health?
Yeah, the update is he's not going to be back for this finals. He's going to be joining me and the rest of the team up in the press box. The injury is just too severe, and we don't want to risk him moving forward. He's been such a key part to our team, so it's going to hurt not to have him there. But that timeline of June 15th that's probably the earliest we will be able to see him. And considering we're still a few weeks away from that point, we don't foresee him being part of this Cup final. Of course, that means we're going to have to obviously play with a different lineup, but I think for the long term, just not including this final, we got to look at Burakovsky's health, and so he'll be more of an off-season addition and an off-season talking point for us as far as his health is concerned. Obviously, that timeline would put Burakovsky into the off-season plans. This off-season is going to be a big one for you, GM McVicker, and it's got to be tough to look ahead. Are you thinking about some of the cap problems that you're going to have next year, or is this all focused on the finals ahead? I mean, they're always in the back of your mind, but I think our entire focus right now is winning 4 more games. If we can pull that off, then next offseason is going to be a completely different beast. Obviously, the cap is going to play a big part of our off-season plans. We're right up against it this year, so it's going to be interesting to see how we kind of are able to maneuver it a little bit. But right now, we're focused solely on winning 4 more games and raising that Stanley Cup once again. And if we can do that, we're going to consider this season a success, and then we'll move on and try to focus on the off-season after that point. Kyle, I know you had one more question you wanted to ask, so I'll let you have the floor here, man.
Yeah, the other question I wanted to ask was, how are you going to replace Burakovsky on that line? Like, is it going to be like a group effort type thing, or do you think somebody can really step up their game and take over?
That's a great question. We're leaving a lot of the line stuff up to Coach Irwin, but what we have looks like he's going to be moving Duclair up to the second line from the fourth line to go alongside Kadri and Nemestikov, which we think is a great move. We think he'll fit into that line very well. He has played the last couple of games there. And it looks like Lettieri is going to fill in on the fourth line. Another waiver claim pickup that we had this year who's stepped in when we've needed him, and he's been a solid piece. But when it comes to any injury, you know it's going to be replaced by committee, and we have the players on all 4 lines that we think can contribute. So obviously losing someone like Burakovsky, who was so good to start the playoffs and so good all season, is tough, but we think we have enough pieces that we're going to be able to fill out any production needs that we're losing by having him out of the lineup. So I guess the answer to your question is Duclair will fill his spot on the second line, but the production will be filled by committee and by the whole team, and we're very excited to have the players that we have going into this final ready to go. Irfan, I saw you put your hand up in the Skype call. You got one more question you wanted to ask?
Well, we were concerned about your cap situation. I know Nick already asked that, but you got to make some big deals coming up. Are you willing to sign your bottom players, or are you trying to lock up your stars? Is that something you're thinking about again now at this point?
Like I said, at this point, we're more focused on the finals. That's the biggest thing going through our organization at the moment. But you bring up a good point about whether or not we're willing to re-sign our bottom end players in comparison to our top end. The ideal goal would be able to keep everybody. Obviously, we love the group that we have had, and obviously they've been very, very strong together. We don't want to lose anybody from that 23 that we have, 22, I guess. But some big decisions are going to be made, whether it's not a big contract going to have to go out so we can sign more players, or whether or not we're going to have to
lose some of our top end players and try to backfill with some up and coming players, it's going to be an interesting decision. We're going to have to sit down, me, the assistant GM, the head coach. Everyone's going to have to sit down in the offseason. We're going to have to reestablish what direction we want to go. And once we do that, I think we're going to be able to figure out how we want to go about it. As of right now, I can't really give you an answer because we are focused on this upcoming final. I can tell you that some players' names have been thrown around in trade possibilities before the trade deadline. Nothing came about that, obviously, but we're going to see. We're going to get through this playoffs, and then we're going to reevaluate and see what teams are willing to move. All right, I'm going to ask one more question before you head out, Mr. McVicker, and you're looking to become one of the first teams to double up, go back-to-back Stanley Cup champions since the turn of the century. What would that mean in the NHL history if you're able to pull this off with your team? Yeah, I mean, great question, Nick. It's to be able to go back-to-back is something that is so very rarely done in sports nowadays, across all of the major sports. You see it a little bit more in basketball now with these super teams that have come up, but overall it's such a hard thing to do. And the fact that we're even in 2 Stanley Cup finals in back-to-back seasons, I think says so much about this team and puts us in a category in NHL history. To answer your question, I don't know what it would mean to me. I think right now we're just living in the moment, trying to figure out what to do, and to be able to answer your question is a very, very tough one. I think give me 5, 10, 15 years, I'll have a different answer, but right now it would mean the world to me to be able to be the GM that brought back-to-back championships to our fan base and back-to-back championships to the NHL for the first time in a long time. So, again, I think have me back on in 10, 15 years, the answer will be very, very different. But right now it's just focusing on getting through this finals and hopefully raising that cup again so that can be a reality. All right, thank you so much, sir, and we appreciate you coming on. Irfan, you had one more thing that you wanted to say?
I do. If you do not win the Stanley Cup this year, is your job safe or not?
It's not really up to me. I would like to think it's safe, bringing the team from pretty much last place in the division to Stanley Cup champions in year 1, and then Western Conference champions in year 2, into the Stanley Cup Finals again. I would like to think my job is safe. Again, obviously, if ownership would like to make a change, that's up to them, and I don't really get a say in that, unfortunately. But to be able to say that my job is 100% safe, I can't. And I can't say that it's 100% in jeopardy. But as a GM who's brought his team 2 Stanley Cup Finals in 2 years since taking over the role, I would like to think that I'm okay. I guess we will see how the offseason sort of plays out. But hopefully I'm in a safe spot, and hopefully we can come back and do this all again in a year's time. That was a great question, Irfan. Thank you. That was a great interview. We appreciate you coming on, as always, and best of luck in the Stanley Cup. Thank you. Appreciate it, guys. And fans, as always, thank you for listening, and we will see you next time.